Be without fear in the face of your enemies. Safeguard the helpless, even if it leads to your death.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Failed Awards Contender here on the Waffle Press Podcast Retrospective. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
Hello, that is me. Apologies for the echo you might be hearing on my recording.
And also the wind behind me, because for some reason, Los Angeles decided to get very windy these last couple weeks.
Yeah, what's that about?
I have no fucking idea.
What's that about?
This fucking planet.
Yeah.
we fucked it.
Yeah, fuck this planet. Let's teach this fucking planet a
No.
lesson.
No.
Burn fossil fuels.
No. Anyways, we're here to talk about Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven. I don't have a lead-in to this one, but I'm
sure there's a clip of Ridley Scott being belligerent out there that you could just cut to.
There's a not great interview he did for not Gods of Egypt. What the fuck?
The other one, Exodus.
Exodus, yeah. Gods of Egypt was the other white Egypt.
Yeah, we did two in the same year.
Yeah, pretty rough stuff.
No, he said possibly the dumbest thing he's ever said.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
And this is a guy who said that the aliens from Prometheus visited Earth, and one of them was Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, because that's not offensive. He said very offensive stuff on the lead up to that one movie. Unfortunately.
Ridley Scott doesn't have the best track record with comments out there.
No, but then every once in a while, because like he punches so wildly that every once in a while he'll say something that's so fucking like dude rock, that it's kind of awesome. But he's also like fucking 800 years old, so
yeah,
like the mere fact that sometimes like he'll get asked questions like, "Oh, did you think it was like subversive to cast this person in this role?" And he was like, "Oh, I thought they were fucking good. I don't know. Like I had good intuition." And it's like, all right, that's probably the right attitude to have. So you can have it sometimes. You just can't have it all the time because he's an old white guy. The
fear is that Ridley Scott, some point between now and his death, is going to say the word cancel culture. That's the fear. It's kind of nuts, though, that he's fucking 84 and still swinging. Like,
I know.
Fucking just wilding out with his goddamn movies.
It was less than 5 years ago now that Ridley Scott said he was too dangerous for Star Wars. Because I guess they just don't want him for that.
Yeah.
Disney had no comment on that.
Is it saying... I'm too dangerous for Star Wars, quote, Ridley Scott, unprompted?
Yeah, basically. Like, so someone had just asked him about Star Wars, because everyone always asks directors their thoughts on franchise stuff now. Stop doing that, by the way. Yeah. But everyone does that.
Is there a franchise that Ridley Scott would even fit in? Like, he doesn't even fit in Alien anymore.
No, he's got to do one more. One more.
He never will, thank Christ.
No, it's a
tragedy. But unfortunately, there will be another Alien project, and that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, which is the last thing I really want.
I just don't want the one that's coming up next, and that's probably all we'll talk about there. But okay, so let's take a step back before we talk about Kingdom of Heaven. Failed awards contenders, our criteria is it was teed up to get awards, and sometimes you just know it when you see it. Mm-hmm. Our criteria is shrinking every recording. But okay, we did Imitation Game. We recorded Book of Henry before this. That's a pretty cynical episode, so I'm gonna release it after this because I think this is gonna be a more positive episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you know? Maybe I have some fucking hot take on fucking Kingdom of Heaven that you weren't expecting.
I mean, that's entirely possible, but I feel like the conversations will be more lighthearted.
I famously called Ridley Scott a doddering old fool.
That is true. So let's take
an episode that we weren't even talking about Ridley Scott.
Sorry. I laughed so hard. I just saw my audio levels like just flatline. Okay, Ridley Scott. The last time we talked about him was for Alien Covenant. your favorite
Yeah.
film of 2017.
A really bad movie.
It's so
a
good.
movie that the stink just like wouldn't leave for like weeks.
It is.
It's like it was almost enough to get me to stop going to movies for the rest of that year.
That's not true.
And it was, I don't know, it was May 2017. I don't remember what else came out that year.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Okay, that was probably the next movie I saw then.
Yeah,
so,
that's a really good movie.
yeah, better than Alien Covenant.
Yes, yes, it is.
You know what? Like, I want to say, just to defend my fucking takes on Prometheus and fucking Alien Covenant, it's not even like, it's not that like they ruined Alien or anything like that. I just, after doing the Alien retrospective, like, I was just sick. I am just sick of the Alien franchise in general. Like, it can't do anything exciting for me at this point. And yeah, like if I never watch those movies again for the rest of my life, I'll be good. And,
So yeah, those movies broke you.
They kind of did. They unfortunately did. And like, it's not like the Prometheus or Covenant of it all, where it's like, we're going to go back to the past. Although I really think Covenant ends on like way too bleak a fucking note, even for the Alien franchise. Like,
that legit might be my favorite part of the movie.
That's like the bleakest ending in a Hollywood movie in a long fucking time. And it's bleaker than the ending to The Counselor, like, which is wild. And it's like that, like that does cross a line for me, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're cool with it, fine. Enjoy being a sick individual. But yeah, I don't need to see the Xenomorph ever again.
All right,
Ever.
and however,
I don't need to see people going to space and finding an alien organism ever again. Like, I'm not even done with the Alien franchise. I'm just done with the alien structure in general.
Okay. Let's move forward a little bit.
And furthermore,
no,
I'm good.
However, you were the first person to tell me that The Last Duel was very good, because I did not watch that opening weekend.
Did I say The Last Duel was good?
You did.
Well, I thought I said, I can't believe you haven't seen The Last Duel.
Well, you said that too, because
I came out of The Last Duel with like very mixed opinions.
Oh, okay.
Where like I really loved some of it, and then was really up in the air. Like, I didn't hate anything really, but I was really up in the air about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I've ultimately fallen on the positive side. I would have to rewatch it though. Like, I have not rewatched it. I did not. Also, I went in not knowing it was Ridley Scott's Rashomon.
Yeah.
Which was
really... as my buddy Brandon Streising from actually, he writes a lot of places. Go follow him on Twitter. He's a really good writer. He called it Dirtbag Rashomon. It's kind of exactly what it is.
Well, it's also Rashomon where everyone mostly agrees. Like, which is fascinating.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, people called it like the Me Too, like Ridley Scott's Me Too movie, and I kind of like agree with that. And I just remember seeing an interview where someone was saying like, like some of my friends had different interpretations, where like maybe someone was lying, and Ridley Scott was like, "Are you fucking joking?" Like, no, it's very clear that like a rape occurred. Like, Ridley Scott was like not holding punches,
Yeah. Well, I mean, when they were doing the fucking setup where it's like the truth according to fucking Adam Driver, the truth according to Matt Damon, when it got to her, Jodie Comer, and when the truth according to, when it faded out, the truth stayed on the screen longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost laughed in the theater.
Really?
And I'm like, I can't laugh because this movie had a fucking horrible rape scene in it.
Yeah.
And then like, you thought that was horrible. I'm gonna show it fucking again, motherfucker. I was like, Jesus Christ. And so like, that's the stuff where it's like, I even now like, I can't go like, hey, go see The Last Duel, people. Like, I don't know how I feel about that ultimately, but it's a very well-made film. I can't really deny that.
Yeah, I was actually kind of gunning for Ridley Scott to get another Best Director nom. Didn't happen.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing to bring it back, is that now The Last Duel is a failed awards contender.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that someday.
Which is a shame, because some of the performances, at least, I think, in that one. Although everyone was down on Ben Affleck. I thought Ben Affleck was fucking great.
Yeah, someone compared him to like early 2000s Ben Affleck, but if he was like intentionally playing him up like his frat boy status as a ruler. And I was like, yeah, that's like a smart decision. Like, it's not a film that respects like authority, I guess. Yeah. It understands these things are very flawed and gross. And I think it's a very good film, and it's just kind of hard disgusting to watch. Yeah. And it's very much, and like I said, it's his it pretty much is his Me Too movie. It's a historical epic reflective of the era it was made. And that is entirely what Kingdom of Heaven is. Okay. I was going to talk about House of Gucci, but let's just get into it.
No, give me your House of Gucci take. I have yet to see it.
I think it's really good and is a lot of fun. I prefer The Last Duel. It was a little shocking that House of Gucci seemed to be sweeping up more nominations.
That might be what fucked The Last Duel, is that House of Gucci kind of got the awards traction, and then neither of them really got anything.
Yeah, like I like Lady Gaga. She's gotten like criticism for her role in that. Everyone's like camping it up. Like, it's very much like in a perfect world, Paul Verhoeven did that.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me fucking Al Pacino camped it up?
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. I am shocked by what you are saying. Certifiably shocked.
But it's a really well made movie too. I think Jodie Comer, the snub of the year. I thought she was really outstanding in the last.
She should be the next big actress. She's on that show, right? Killing Eve.
Yeah, which is apparently one of those shows like Sherlock, where it's like, oh wow, it's a fresh, exciting new voice, and then the voice dissipates. I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I never really got into it, but I know people that really like it.
Yeah, and but she's really great. She's
good on it. But has no one talked about how fucking ominous the title of that show is, though?
Killing Eve.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a pulp thriller novel.
Yeah, but that's the girl. That's the one. That's what's her name's name. That's Sandra Oh's name.
Yeah. So
is she gonna fucking die at the end? That's my big hang up right now. I'm not invested in that show. if it's
I don't know if it's I thought it was just the premise, because I know it becomes some weird subtextual romance thing between her and Jodie Comer, but it's never gonna be
and you bet satisfied. Your ass it's gonna stay textual.
Yeah, because the BBC hates people that aren't straight.
Yeah, especially right now.
Yeah. What the fuck is in the water over there?
England is losing its mind. They don't rule the whole world anymore.
Okay.
Thankfully, that will never happen here.
Well, speaking of England.
Speaking of not ruling the world anymore, the Crusades were some of the dumbest shit to ever happen in history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what this movie's about. It's specifically about the lead up to the Third Crusade. What's your take on the Crusades, Diego?
They were bad and stupid, and they're worth studying.
Yeah, that's the thing. Where Crusades, very explosive topic.
Yeah,
I guess to say a lot of opinions. You can hate the Crusades and not hate them enough. It's it's kind of one of those. And we should say that also Kingdom of Heaven is kind of considered one of the least historically accurate films ever made. Mm-hmm. So we're not really going to talk about the history of it, but we will talk about what this movie is trying to use the Crusades to say about the era it was made in.
Mm-hmm. And I think not only are the Crusades kind of a thorny subject, I guess, the era this was released was really soon after 9/11.
It's 2005. This is the last year anyone liked George W. Bush.
And
that was
I would be shocked if Ridley Scott was a fan of his after this movie, especially.
I honestly can't make heads or tails of what Ridley Scott really believes.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, not to get too... I like this movie. I spoilers. I really like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good historical epic. I think its ideas about religion and culture and war kind of boil down to those coexist bumper stickers you see on the backs of cars.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's about as deep as it really gets.
I think that the inherent flaw is that at the end of the day, Ridley Scott, my fucking boy, my ultimate problematic fave, is still a problematic fave white guy.
Yeah.
From a well-off background in England. So he's going to have some blinders. That being said, I do think this, like, for Hollywood, this is a pretty radical film. Like, the mere fact that, I don't even say, like, antagonists. Like, the real antagonists are, like, Guy de Lusignan and stuff like that. And, like, everyone from the Islamic side of this are treated with such, like, grace and respect.
Yeah.
That, like, when I saw this, because I never saw it in theaters. I saw the theatrical cut first. Even that version, which I think is still watchable, I think it's a bad reputation for being, like, dog shit. It's not. It's just very clearly not, like, a full movie. I was like, that was a huge, like, thing that I just didn't see at that point, you know? It was like this and Lost that were like, no, don't be racist to people in the Middle East. Like, they treated their characters like human beings versus, like, you know, another problematic fave, 24, which is like, we have to stop the terrorists from exploding a nuclear device in Los Angeles from the Middle East. And it's like, that's not real.
This is peak Islam hates our freedom, you know, like, that's what it boiled down to. I think the portrayal of Muslims in this, it is positive to a fault, where all the Muslims seem kind of monolithic in this film. It would have been interesting to kind of see what you have to assume the dynamics that are happening in Christian Jerusalem were also happening on the Muslim side. But we don't really get an insight into their world as much, you know? Which I would have liked to have seen. But in 2005, it probably would have felt more difficult to do. Like, to even show, like, one Muslim guy who sucks, the whole audience would have just been like, yeah, fucking fuck them. Like,
yeah.
We forget how fucking vitriolic this country was. Like, it's bad now, and it was so much worse back then. Like, it's kind of nuts to do a movie like this that is basically saying that the Crusades were wrong, were driven by greed, were not at all the holy war they were claimed to be, and that, not so subtly, that we are doing the exact same thing nowadays. Which, it's pretty nuts. Nuts.
So I really like this movie when I saw the theatrical cut still. I've always been a fan. When I saw the director's cut, it felt like a revelation. I think this is one of Ridley Scott's, like, top 5 best films in its director's cut form, which is the version everyone should watch, by the way.
Yeah, there's no point watching. I only saw the theatrical cut once, and it left, like, no impact on me. And then, like, later in my life, when I was reading, like, best director's cuts of movies, like, fucking half of Ridley Scott's filmography is on there.
Yeah. He's the director cut king, you know.
And I watched Kingdom of Heaven. That's when I was like, oh, this is really good. And we have to say, this movie totally lives in the shadow of Gladiator, Ridley Scott's 2000 film, which won Best Picture, and very specifically came out in the year 2000, the year before 9/11. Like, you couldn't have made Gladiator the year after 9/11.
Yeah.
That was, like, the last gasp. And that is a movie I am not a fan of. It's fine. There are moments that are really good, but I mostly find it kind of boring. And a little fawning, and a little, like, too much, like, oh, I kind of don't like movies about Rome.
Okay.
If I'm being perfectly honest.
All right.
Because they're all the same fucking story. And everyone just watches and goes, see, we're Rome today. And it's like, yes and no.
Like the ultimate, the through line in all of it is, like, congrats, you finally realize that capital and power are bad. That's, like, we can do other stuff with that.
Well, also,
I do like Gladiator, but I'll let you finish.
The Achilles heel of, like, any Roman epic is that because it has to be like full of machismo and, like, action, the hero has to be a soldier of some kind, and the soldier is like indicative of everything wrong with the Roman Empire, which is that their military power, they just overstretched themselves, and their entire economy became built around feeding their military machine, you know? And
hey, well, now that you mention it,
yeah. and you know, it's weird when people go like, any movie about Rome is about the death of democracy, and any story about the death of democracy is about whatever frightful thing we're having about America at the moment, you know? And they never make that point clear that, like, no, it was war that was the problem with Rome. Instead, it's just like, oh, corrupt senators were the problem. And it's like, yeah, but how'd they get corrupt, motherfucker? Like, who elected them, motherfucker? Like, we never dig deeper than that. Because guess what? Everyone thinks politicians are corrupt. There isn't a person out there who thinks politicians are good. There's a person who thinks a politician is good, but there is no one that thinks politicians are good. So you make a movie about Rome, about corrupt politicians, everyone agrees on it, and your movie ultimately ends up not really saying anything. Whereas a movie that says the Catholic Church is corrupt and the stuff that made modern England is actually evil, that's a little more daring.
Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, it still is white guy Ridley Scott telling a story from his point of view, which is a white guy.
Yeah.
But, like, again, I was really just like, it was kind of a shock to the system in a good way, to encounter a story like this at an age when I was not really receiving that stuff from my media, you know? Like, it wasn't the thing that, like, I wasn't, like, racist before, and it was like, wow, I need to stop being racist. But it was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was shocking to experience it, like, on film and not, like, in real life.
Did it change your perspective? On the world, at least?
On the world, yeah, a little bit, I guess.
I mean, nothing wrong with a movie doing that. I've had that multiple times in my life. Like, you know, we'll get into that with some of the later
like
films
I wasn't like
here.
a pro-war guy. Like thankfully, I think my mom has always been pretty left-leaning, and so like I remember going to like anti-war protests around like LA with her, and I believe we were even on the front page of my hometown's newspaper one time for one of the protests.
Pinkos fight George W. Bush and our good soldiers overseas. A little picture of you. I was not raised in a like anti-war household, although I've always been anti-war. I think I've talked about that on the show. I was raised in a house where, unprompted, my father sat me down one day and just said, look, the Catholic Church is responsible for more death and suffering on this planet than any other organization. And then went on with his day. And we're Catholic. We were raised Catholic. It wasn't like he was telling me not to be Catholic. But he felt the need to make that point early. And I found out that his father, who was a history teacher, also made a similar point to him when he was a child. So I know what to do when I have a kid now.
Well, I think that's kind of this movie might be essential in my growth of my relationship to religion, which is that, you know, faith is like ultimately a beautiful thing, but I am not a fan of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
At all. And this film is ultimately like kind of trying to explore like Balian is played by Orlando Bloom. He's kind of like our Luke Skywalker through the situation. Now you could argue whether or not this movie needs a character like that. But I think it kind of streamlines like all the various conflicts and locations that the film is exploring.
Very much so.
Yeah. And we kind of we get these glimpses of conflicts and power, and faith, and how those things collide, how they reach a boiling point. And you know, Lord of the Rings came out a couple years before this too, and you know, each one of those movies is like notorious for like the action and the battle sequences too. So naturally, you probably would want to cast someone like Orlando Bloom. Yes. And this film ends in a big siege battle kind of way too. But again, it's not like I think this is where the movie might stumble a little bit, even though it's very impressive technically. It also doesn't like demonize anyone except for the people that kind of instigated the fight itself. You know,
heroes on both sides.
Yeah, a little, yeah.
I don't know if it's not really like neoliberal, but it's close. It's kind of like I said, it's the coexist bumper sticker. Mm-hmm. It's like, why can't we all just get along? Which it's like, yeah, we've been saying that for a while now, and it doesn't really interrogate the mechanisms that like lead to war. Although this movie does a little bit better, where like there are moments where people go like. Jeremy Irons has a line, and I did not write it down, unfortunately, where it was like I came here looking to like serve God, but all I found was like all that drives this. It's not spiritual. It's just greed. Mm-hmm. Like everyone fighting here is just raping and pillaging, and it's no different than any other war. And I mean, that's really, I think, the good point it underlines is that we keep trying to think there's like a good war, that. Yes, Vietnam was bad, but this time we're going to get Vietnam right, which is like the prevalent American attitude, and it's just not true. All war, to quote the Fallout franchise, war never changes. It's always the same. It always results in the same carnage and destruction that we see. In wars that are fought for a, quote, just cause, and wars that are fought for an unjust cause. And we shouldn't act like, if with God on our side, this war will actually go well.
Have you seen the film Merry Christmas or Joyeux Noël?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I recently watched that for the first time. It's the direction isn't like outstanding. But that film has a tagline which reads, "Without an enemy, there can be no war." And again, I just saw it recently for the first time, and I was like, I criticized the direction on like the first half. And for those that don't know, this is a film about the Christmas Eve Truce, which took place during World War I between French, Scots, and the Germans. And I found it deeply moving, which that is an event I did not learn about as a child in history. And it's a film about how, like, at the end of the day, these are just people caught up in a situation that they bought into at some point, that they were fighting for a great cause. And it's like, no, there are human beings all over the world, and whatever people do to demonize them is unequivocally disgusting and one of the most evil things we could do to each other on the planet. And that film, again, not like an outstanding film, but it really moved me. And it ends on a very, very cynical note with there's a priest character in the film who joins the fight, not to fight, but to watch over his boys, so to speak. And he ends up leaving the Catholic Church because the church was upset at him for not being like a nationalist dickhead. And he hears the one of the other priests kind of give a nationalist speech to rile up troops being sent off to the front lines, and he hears it and he takes off the cross and he leaves. And that's the end of that character in that movie. His faith is like broken in the institution, and the film does a very good job at blaming institutions rather than people. Like the most beautiful scenes in the film are when they're all just like singing together and dancing and like talking and sharing memories of their lives back home, realizing that they've crossed into certain territories during the conflict together. And it's like, wow, like look at what we can all like do. Like, look at how beautiful like our shared experiences are. There is no point in like continuing the war from that point onwards, but it did, and it was completely out of their control. Units were disbanded because they didn't want people to keep trying to do that, because it's not beneficial to politicians and people in power, and probably people who are making a lot of money off of the military equipment there. And I don't know. I thought it was really shocking. Like I watched that for
movie-
the first time recently, and I got a lot of Kingdom of Heaven vibes. Although Ridley Scott would have made it like all timer instead of being a very
like
good
you
movie.
said, not a triumph of directing in any way, but I do remember that movie does a very good opening where they do the school children from different countries that are just reciting like what they've been told about other nations. As like I remember that being like a really good like opening just to set up like here's how much all these European nations fucking hated each other.
Yeah.
And it was just so inbred in the culture, and it's just like the same thing was happening. You know, I remember being in school in the early 2000s. You know, like I remember weird attitudes, and they weren't weird. You don't really realize they're weird until you get a little older. Then you're like, hey, wait a minute, you know. And like I said, it is like you know, and this is the same year as Spielberg's Munich as well.
Oh fuck yeah!
Another movie that kind of another one that kind of ends on a note of like, why can't we all just get along? But also is like super critical of like Israel, which was nuts to do in 2000. It's nuts to do today, and it was nuts to do in 2005.
Yeah. Well, we will talk about that eventually on Happy Amblin. But I have been listening to a lot of Tony Kushner interviews because that guy is just one of the most talented people working today.
Talk about a team up. Like,
I know. Isn't that like just a fucking legendary? It's
who
like,
would have predicted that though? Like
I have no idea.
I never would have been like, you know who Spielberg needs to get with? Tony Kushner, fucking Angels in America. Let's go, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
we also have apparently Kathleen Kennedy to thank for that.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Yeah. So thank you, Kathleen Kennedy.
So what you're saying is Tony Kushner should write a Star Wars film.
That would be the thing that breaks me in a good way. I would lose my mind. I wouldn't know how to react. But yeah, I bring that up, and not just to gush over Tony Kushner's talent, but like I think he was talking to like Mark Maron or someone, another problematic fave, and he was saying like, you know, Tony Kushner obviously revered Spielberg as well. He's kind of like, you know, after Schindler's List, it's like kind of like a beacon of like the Jewish people's artistry, I think he said, and was like, you know, like that puts him on a pedestal. So why do you want to tell the story about Munich? And he didn't want to demonize the Palestinian people, and he wanted to make sure it was critical about the right things and not just like othering. And he you know, you never know someone, but like what he was describing about before signing on to that project, I was like, he sounds like a good guy. He sounds like his head's on right, and you don't always get that vibe from people in Hollywood.
You don't. All this, I guess Spielberg's just so weird. Like, we'll save it all for Happy Amblin.
Yeah.
But like, sometimes you watch his film and you're like, Spielberg snuck in some like fucking radical shit into this movie, and you're like, where the fuck did this come from? And then Spielberg, like, you see the movies he produces, and you see him give interviews, and it's just like, do you even know the movie you made, Steve? Like, I mean, I gotta bring up like his Lincoln has a scene in it where fucking Abraham Lincoln says to a former black slave that he doesn't actually really care what happens to black people. And he's like, I just need to do this because if we don't solve this, it'll probably lead to another war. It's like, I'm literally just doing this for the country. Which is wild. Yeah. And it's like, wow. So, I don't know. But hey, Ridley Scott has never said something like that, in my opinion.
No. He has just like we opened with. He just said some goofy stuff, and unfortunately, some of that goofy stuff is very offensive. And
yeah.
He in some ways, you were absolutely right. He is a doddering old fool. In other ways, he remains one of the greatest directors who's ever lived. Because
it's weird that this feels like a deeply empathetic film towards Muslims. He still falls into traps of othering them from time to time, because I mean the movie is told from the perspective of white people. The majority of characters in this are white.
Yes, and really quick, I just got to say also, speaking of which, I obviously am not well read on Middle Eastern politics of this era and of the separate faiths, so I believe I said Islam, and I conflated that and Muslims, and that's I don't think
there's
so I probably already fucked up on that.
It's complicated. We are not going to be able to pull that all apart. I did do as much research as I could in the weeks between recording, which, believe it or not, was not enough. But yeah, and just we're probably going to be about as historically accurate as the film is. But all I was saying is that Ridley Scott, he falls back on othering a lot in his movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think Black Hawk Down probably being the most notorious of it.
Yeah. Which I also have to say, I mean, this I don't have to say it, but, you know, it's a really well-made movie, but boy, it was definitely made in 2001.
Yes. And it's so weird. It's like we're going from the guy who made Black Hawk Down to now the guy who made Kingdom of Heaven, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then, you know, and The Counselor all as well, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a movie that was a prank made by Cormac McCarthy and was also made on a bet to try and find a more ridiculous haircut for Javier Bardem than No Country for Old Men. It was also a bet by Ridley Scott to see if he could make a movie where he kept the microphones as far away from his actors as humanly possible. Can you believe Cameron Diaz doesn't want to act anymore?
I think that's her best performance.
It kind of is, but like, if that's your best performance, it might make you reconsider some things.
Aww.
No, that's not even a dig at her performance. It's just the material.
Yeah.
What she's put through in that movie. I saw that with my grandfather in the theater.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a moment.
I bet. Speaking of director Ridley Scott's visual acumen, I think this is one of the best looking movies ever made, and still there are occasional like weird green screen clipping effects on some of the single shots, which is unfortunate, but like God, when that's not happening, this is some of the best looking stuff ever. It's another Ridley Scott collaboration with cinematographer John Matheson, who did Gladiator, and I know you're not a fan, but like, would you agree it looks well? It looks good?
Gladiator looks fantastic.
Yeah,
like,
it looks well.
That's the reason to fucking watch Gladiator, you know? But I'm not a fan of some of the, like, slow-mo and motion blurring they do on the action occasionally in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it works, other times it's a little weird. It's like in Hateful Eight when they slowed things down.
Yeah.
Which it's like, never let Tarantino do this ever again. Like, because it's silly. But, hey, you know, Ridley Scott's always trying shit. Like, you gotta give him that.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta give him that. If nothing else.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just such a fucking good looking movie. I've seen it compared to like Akira Kurosawa and stuff like that. I don't know about that, but it's pretty fucking good looking. And we talked about it before, but like the era of that mid 2000s when blockbusters were really taking off and kind of becoming the dominant form of movies. Mm-hmm. This is when they still looked like movies, and that's not a dig at anything other than like Ridley Scott, even like in his truly like true misfires.
Yeah, when does that officially stop? When does that end?
I hate to say it because I actually like this movie, but probably the Avengers. But like that's not a Marvel thing. That's that douchebag director's thing.
Yeah, that's also the same year as Dark Knight Rises. Which, say what you will about that movie, it looks like a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like Man of Steel, but I don't know. I don't think I would say it looks like a movie, but I'm sure some people would make that argument.
Yeah, I would make that argument. I think it looks really good.
Of course you would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Here's my I guess my hot take. I do not prefer that look for a Superman movie.
Really?
But
you don't think the movie that looks like a fucking funeral march should be the look of a Superman movie? Let's watch this movie about the tragedy of the BP oil spill. Oh wait, Superman's here. Okay, I guess.
No.
Interesting take.
It still looks better. Like, it's clearly a choice.
You know, a movie about the Black Death really could have used Superman.
It's a creative choice and not like an accident, which is what I feel some movies are doing. Like, not to drag people involved with this movie, but like the 355 just came out, right? A movie no one has thought about already. Simon Kinberg can clearly like I'm sure the movie's actually fine because I think people just kind of get harsher when it's like women films that fail.
Really?
But Simon Kinberg has to be like a front runner for like the new worst director because that dude just cannot establish a look, a scene.
What's nuts is he can't even establish a look that you can put in the trailer. Mm-hmm. Like, even that new Kingsman movie found stuff to put in the trailer.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the 355, I forget that movie exists until you bring it up.
Most people do.
And Dark Phoenix was similar, where that was a fucking X-Men movie.
Yeah. And
there was, like, nothing about it that stuck with you.
And my favorite part of Dark Phoenix is the third act where you can clearly tell someone else was brought in to recut and redirect the action.
I still haven't seen it.
It's not good, but like I don't know, it's good as like the Bryan Singer ones, which is not an endorsement, mind you. But I'm just like, I don't know, the other ones are bad too. What the fuck are people talking about?
Yeah, but like, not an endorsement, but like X-Men 2 is like bad, but in like an early 2000s way that's kind of fun.
Like, I get the Wolverine scene is like iconic for a reason. I guess you're right.
There's a lot of fun stuff. I mean, even the scene when they just blow up a bunch of cop cars is fun because they really blow up cop cars. Like, there's good stuff. The Nightcrawler scene's fantastic. Like,
oh yeah.
There's good stuff in that X-Men movie. It's just such a shame that they were made by Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
You know what I realized, though, as we're talking, what Man of Steel really looks like? It looks like fucking Spielberg's War of the Worlds.
This is not an inherently bad thing, but again, it's not something I like with the Superman stuff. War of the Worlds still has, like, a color to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's got that bleach bypass thing, and I think Man of Steel tried to find, like, this midway point where it had the bleach bypass look, but also without the richness of, like, the warmer colors. Because, like, every once in a while, War of the Worlds kind of sprinkles that in. I won't say if that's a good or a bad thing. I'll hold off my thoughts on that movie for Happy Amblin for sure. Man of Steel, like, genuinely does have, like, a desaturation problem.
Yeah.
The lighting and, like, the framing and the lens choices, like, all that stuff makes it look like a real movie. And that's
Zack
good.
Snyder's War of the Worlds would have been like, look at the red weed spreading everywhere, and it looks gray.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess that's red if you kind of squint.
Kingdom of Heaven also doesn't have that problem.
Kingdom of Heaven looks fantastic. Let's talk about Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh my god, I have so many notes on the scenes that were cut from the theatrical.
You know, I don't even remember what exactly had been cut because I've only watched the director's cut for like so long.
Okay.
I know that they removed that Michael Sheen was like his half-brother.
Michael Sheen was his half-brother. Nicholas Coster-Waldau, who the Kingslayer from Game of Thrones. Great actor. Kind of looks like Game of Thrones is going to be his big thing, but whatever. It was a hit. Good for him. That is his cousin in the official version of the film, the director's cut. In the theatrical cut, I thought it was just a sheriff. So when I first saw the director's cut, I was like, whoa. Like, not only does he kill his half-brother, his uncle sends his son to kill him, his cousin, and his father, Liam Neeson, kills his cousin.
Yeah.
Because in the theatrical cut, Liam Neeson, before he strikes his head with the sword, still says, thank my brother for his love. And I was like, what? Is that like a thing Knight said? I don't know.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's incredibly bizarre. And I was like, I guess so.
What is influencing Ridley Scott on his editing choices.
Apparently, this one was very like hands-on post-production from Fox, and they were like, "We really want you to like whittle this down from a film epic into like a spectacle, like Lord of the Rings." And he was like, "Motherfuckers, that's what are you talking about?"
The Lord of the Rings films were 3 hours, you idiots.
Yeah, and also like those movies are so clearly more than spectacle that I'm still hearing criticism from like losers that they're long and boring. So
Yeah.
get with the fucking program. And so they really just wanted him to dwindle it down below 3 hours. I think they convinced him to take out a full 45 minutes of the film.
It's nuts. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
it really is like an Alien 3 level revelation.
Mm-hmm. It says here, I think, is that right? 50 minutes, it looks like.
Fucking Christ,
So
yeah.
almost an entire hour of the film was lost. Wow.
I'm trying to think what else. Sibylla's son is not in the theatrical cut at all.
Yeah, which is another wild thing.
Yeah, it's like that is so essential. How would you like? I don't understand. I genuinely cannot fathom being in that room and having to tell Ridley Scott, no, you got to take out the stuff that makes this movie interesting.
That makes this movie function as a movie.
Yeah, that makes the characters feel like characters. Because the theatrical cut, again, I don't think it's as bad as its reputation precedes, but the characters are very fucking thin.
Yeah. And we're talking about someone like Orlando Bloom's character is kind of, I don't want to say passive, but a lot of stuff happens at him in the movie.
Yes.
You know? And it makes him not a super engaging protagonist, at least on the surface. And to remove even the very little that's there is kind of wild.
Yeah. It's it was an interesting curiosity for me that I obviously enjoyed it enough to get the director's cut. Like I saw something there, and it was such a pleasant surprise to discover the movie in its full form, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which you can still get on VHS, by the way.
The theatrical cut?
I think the theatrical cut, yeah.
I have the theatrical cut on DVD somewhere. It was released on DVD, the theatrical cut. I think I have an old Blockbuster copy of it.
Yeah, and this is a Fox release, like most of Ridley Scott's films, so it's also on Hulu. Although I don't know if the director's cut is on Hulu.
I did not see, because I was kind of hoping. I've been doing some like work in my basement lately where I keep all my DVDs, and my DVDs are kind of blocked right now. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping I wouldn't have to go get the DVD copy of Kingdom of Heaven to rewatch it, and I had to because it's the theatrical cut on Hulu.
That sucks.
So I had to whatever. It took me like 5 minutes, but you know, oh, my life's so hard. I had to move boxes, Diego, to watch a movie.
Ridley Scott also blamed himself for paying too much attention to the opinions of preview audiences for the film.
That does seem like something Ridley Scott wouldn't listen to.
Yeah. So you know, even a king can miss once in a while. Sorry.
It just feels like Ridley Scott. If he let the car fucking in the counselor, it just seems like he's a guy who is not interested in what the audience thinks.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Okay. When Balian and Guy fight at the end, right, and Balian spares him, that's not in the movie. The last time you see Guy in the theatrical cut is when he's being paraded on the donkey in front of the army. And so I guess my assumption for a year was that he's just killed off screen. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Would have liked to have known for sure, but okay, I guess that's just how they're.
Feels like something to show the audience.
I want to talk about the cast a little bit too, because this is a surprisingly stacked cast.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom, Eva Green, a year before Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Jeremy Irons, who we brought up earlier, who's fucking incredible in this. David Thewlis,
who I love seeing in basically everything.
Yeah. Oh, that dude's so good. Who gets decapitated in this?
Does he get decapitated? Is that what happened to him?
Isn't that a pile of heads?
I thought it was just a pile of bodies.
Oh, I assumed it was a pile of heads.
I can't remember. I watched this shit yesterday.
Okay. I assumed it was a pile of bodies. But,
I'm
yeah,
sure.
gross.
Either way, he's dead.
Either way, he's dead, and it sucks.
Boy, don't make it.
Yeah. Brendan Gleeson, who's
Brendan
also
Gleeson,
a treasure.
who is like, what is he doing in the prison cell in that one scene?
He's eating
like,
something, isn't he?
No, he's like power jogging. Like he's doing like the weird.
Oh
like,
yeah. I guess he's trying to keep himself active.
Yeah, because he's so ready to kill people.
Yeah, he plays like a straight up psychopath in this.
Like a hell of a choice from Brendan Gleeson.
Martin Sokas, who has a weird career. That guy pops up in like a lot of stuff, but
hit films like Triple X and Aeon Flux.
Oh, and of course, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as Dr. Ashley Kafka.
Oh my god.
Do you know about that?
Yes.
Yeah,
oh my
okay.
god.
That's super weird because Dr. Ashley Kafka is not only not a man in the comic book, and this isn't, whatever, comic book adaptations maybe don't rewrite women to be men, but also apparently a Jewish character, and they have him play Dr. Kafka in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 basically as like a neo-Nazi. Like the accent and everything. It's very intentional what they're going for. I don't know who decided that, but that was like jarring.
Why is Dr. Kafka even in that fucking movie?
That version of Dr. Kafka works at Ravencroft.
Why is Ravencroft in the movie?
Oh, because it's in the comics.
Why? All right.
That's it.
I already forget. Who was the trench coat guy supposed to be?
Oh, that is Mr. Fears, the gentleman.
But is it like, is there gonna be a different reveal there?
No, it's just a guy. He's kind of like the man in black from X-Files.
What a bunch of bullshit.
No, that's not a bad idea. It's just the movie doesn't do anything with that. They're just like, ooh,
no,
it's a mystery.
Those fuck movies, man.
Yeah, sorry, that's not me. That's not me defending it. Michael Sheen, Liam Neeson, Alexander Siddig, who another guy who's just like kind of never gotten his big break over here.
Mm-hmm. He's popping up. He pops up in shit all the time.
Oh, he pops up in tons of great shit. My beloved Skyline sequel, Skylines.
Oh, I forgot he was fucking Doran Martell on Game of Thrones.
What a fucking waste.
Yeah.
Perfect casting.
You know what though? He was Julian Bashir. Like he's set for life. Like
yeah. Okay, yeah.
He's good.
Yeah. Everyone watch Deep Space Nine. It's really great. Might be the best Star Trek series.
They really don't make them like they used to.
Aww.
Has the new Star Trek gotten good yet? I haven't been paying attention.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not paying attention either. Sorry, everyone.
Could be good. Maybe the cartoon's at least fun.
Yeah, I mean that looks fun.
It's so weird that there's just that cartoon Star Trek that looks like a Rick and Morty cartoon.
I know. Well, there's another cartoon on Nickelodeon too that does not look like a Rick and Morty cartoon.
Another odd choice.
I don't know. Star Trek for kids is cool. I mean, it kind of all is for kids, but like it, could work.
Yeah. Hey.
What do you think about Liam Neeson in this?
He's very Liam Neeson.
Okay, I thought he was really good in this.
He's good, but you passed over my favorite guy.
You're gonna have to spell Kevin McKidd.
Edward Norton.
Oh,
as
that's
the king.
Fucking
King
right.
Baldwin the Fourth.
Yep.
He's just sitting in his little room and got that mask. That's a great character in the middle of all of this.
I really like that character. Probably wouldn't have cast Edward Norton, a white man, to play him.
What are you gonna do? Wait, was that guy not white? Here's how I don't know history.
Oh, you know what? Let me check. I just assumed he was not.
I thought he was. He's like an English.
Baldwin the Fourth. Oh, he's French. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. He was a leper.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, being a leper sucks. And then he's like, hey, Orlando Bloom, guy I just met, check out this battle plan of mine. And Orlando Bloom's like, that's not how I'd do it. And he's like, how would you do it? And he's like, well, do this obvious thing. And he's like, now that we did this obvious thing, the city would be protected.
Is that like intentional though?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
honestly.
okay, because like...
Well, here's the thing. Here's the other thing about this movie, and I don't know what the movie's going for, but like Orlando Bloom is kind of supposed to be Jesus in this. Like, he keeps doing things and running into stuff that makes him like a biblical prophet, right?
Basically, without the text of that, what you just said.
But there's a scene in it where like, you know, he gets Liam Neeson's land, and he's like, you know what this land could really use? Some water. And it's like, we never thought of that. Yeah. And then there's like a whole sequence, and it's fun where like they're building irrigation and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, everyone's happy, now we can grow crops. And then Eva Green shows up, and then she's like, you know, near here is where Jesus turned water into wine. Also, you turned this patch of dirt into shit. It's like, yeah, I did. And then there's that scene where he's just sitting, like, throwing rocks at the bush, and the bush catches fire, and he's literally got a burning bush in front of him. And it's like he's the truly enlightened man. Well, like God does work in mysterious ways.
All enlightened people let stuff happen to them.
I guess.
That's it.
Just go with the flow, man. That's why the dude is like a perfect character.
Kingdom of Heaven should be remade, but with the dude as Balian of Ibelin.
The thing is, you have to have dude and Walter.
Oh.
Right? You see what happens?
Walter can be the last of his father's surviving night pals, because all the like a lot of the characters that are introduced with Liam Neeson get like immediately killed in like a pretty impressive action scene, frankly. Pretty brutal, but like I think it's just like the one guy who makes it to the end. Everyone else dies horribly.
You see what happens, Godfrey?
I also like the priest who shows up in Jerusalem, or not the priest. What is he?
Like the father.
Yeah, and when they're about to surrender the city, and he's like, convert to Islam, repent later. Like, it's not like a comedic line. Like, it's a very revealing line that he's like, he has, like, his faith is really just about keeping himself, like, in charge.
Yeah.
And,
the movie is not subtle about what it thinks about wars in the Middle East. Let's just say that.
And I love the line that Balian says immediately after, he's like, you've taught me a lot about religion, Father. It's so, like, obvious, but it's so good, I guess, because I mean we're kind of admitting that it's not a very radical film, but it kind of ends up being radical because films of this nature that are openly critical of these institutions we find ourselves still surrounded by aren't really made.
Yeah, when you look at the crop of other historic epics, this is one of the more radical ones, because historic you just can't really make a radical film that's also a historic war, like epic war film, because those cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
and even here we saw Ridley Scott, like even after Gladiator, like didn't have like final cut, you know, like clearly had to give in the pressure of Fox executives, and it's like that's ridiculous, but that's what happens sometimes. And so it's nuts that a studio greenlit the film as is. Whereas, like, so you kind of have to take it with what it is. Now, if you don't want to take it as it is, that's totally fine too. Although you find a lot of people very angry online that this movie doesn't portray the Muslims negatively.
No, fuck them.
And it's like, oh, but did you know? And that's where you realize like why fucking arguments about the Middle East are so stupid. Because, like, they're like, oh, but this film fails to reckon with just, like, 5 years before that, these Muslims did this awful thing. And then someone's like, yeah, but 5 years before that, the Christians did this. And it's like, yeah, but 5 years before that, the Muslims did that. And it just goes on and on like that forever. And it's just like, motherfuckers, let's pay attention to what's really happening here. Yeah. Which is that the Pope very clearly told people to take back the Holy City because he thought it would unite Europe. And it basically did. And also, people will be like, hey, the Crusades, they actually opened up the Muslim world to Europe, and like this movie unfortunately leans into a little bit of that, where like we see Europe as like this impoverished country, which it wasn't really at the time. But some people argue that the Crusades were actually a good because it opened up the West to the benefits of the Islamic Golden Age, which isn't really true. Those things were happening long before the Crusades were happening, because there was already pilgrimages going to the Holy City. And in history, there are times when Muslims ruled Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was fairly open to Christians coming in. Now, there are times when Muslims ruled where they were not so open. There were times where Christians ruled where they were very open, and there were times where Christians ruled and they weren't open, Like, it's all over the map. But a lot of the benefits people kind of give the Crusades was stuff that kind of already happened. The strongest one, I guess you could make, is that it united the various European countries, but at the same time, it also led to the fall of the Byzantine Empire. Constantinople is eventually sacked by the Ottoman Empire, which because war weakens nations. It doesn't actually make them grow stronger. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can get a nation behind something, but ultimately it will test the limits of your resources, which is why war's mostly a bad thing. Mm. Also, the other thing about the Crusades is that it is. Some historians argue that the Crusades is kind of like the first example of European colonialism, especially with later Crusades after this, where the focus kind of entirely shifts to North Africa as opposed to the holy cities, which, kind of a dry run for what eventually will happen to Africa, which is a real shame. I don't know how far you can really go with that. I think, like most of history, it's complex, and there's a lot of truth on all sides, and a lot of also bullshit that fits people's narratives. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it makes the Crusades very interesting to study. But any reading of the Crusades, it's going to tell you more about the people and nation writing them than it's ever really going to tell you about the Crusades. Which is why I think Kingdom of Heaven fits, because it really does reflect the era it was made in. And it's why it was kind of the perfect idea to make a Crusade film like this, which is very much about the Iraq War. I mean, this is just straight up an Iraq War movie, which is what makes it fascinating to me.
I also want to shout out the actor that plays Salahuddin, Ghassan Massoud, who was also in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he plays a character named Amon the Corsair. I don't recall that specific character.
He's not one of the pirates that show up and just stand around.
He might be. And he was
remember in fucking Pirates 3 where they're like, we're getting all the pirates from all around the world for this, our final battle. And then two ships just fight.
Yeah, I love that movie, but that is something that always bothered me. Ridley Scott's Exodus, he is also in that, unfortunately. But he also turned down a role in Syriana. Do you remember that movie?
I do remember Syriana.
Yeah, because he was like, I feel like this is going to be anti-Arab, and I don't remember that movie. But
if I remember correctly, I think that's one of those movies that thinks it isn't anti-Arab, but it might be. It's one of those type.
Yeah.
But I saw that once, right. And it was deeply depressing, and I'm like, I don't need to revisit this.
Okay. He was also in All the Money in the World as a sheik. So he's got a working relationship with Ridley Scott, and apparently he's also a filmmaker in his home of Damascus, Syria. So
okay, right on, man.
Yeah, I think he's excellent in this movie, and a lot of his lines really stick with me, especially the last ones where him and Balian are discussing when they're giving up the city of Jerusalem.
They're making a truce.
They're making a truce. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know. I that dude had a hell of a performance, and I'd like to see him in more stuff because he's still going for it.
Yeah, he's still good. Maybe don't cast him as like historic figures or whatever. Like
yeah. Sure don't pigeonhole him into roles like from historical epics or anything like that. Just give him stuff to do. He's good.
It's a good movie. I don't know if we need to go like super in on it.
Like, it's.
I took like 10 pages of notes, but like I don't know if I need to really go into it.
No. I think we've touched on what we really like about it and why it's still one of the better Ridley Scott movies you could check out.
Yeah. Does Ridley Scott now? You're the Ridley Scott stan.
Yeah.
Of the two of us. Does Ridley Scott have more good movies under his belt than bad movies?
I always have to kind of double check.
I can't really say because there's like huge gaps of his that I haven't seen.
I would say his 90s run's kind of rough.
His 90s run's rough. His late 80s isn't great.
Oh, you don't like Black Rain?
You know, I have not watched Black Rain.
Okay.
So
I was definitely of the era.
I'm not a giant fan of Legend.
Okay, I like the vibe of Legend. I don't really care.
Legend is a great vibe, but is not like a good movie.
Yeah,
like
I'm not crazy about it, but like I'll go to bat for it because of that, you know. Mm-hmm. Kingdom of Heaven's not a great vibe movie, but it's just a great movie in general. So yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
I am the idiot that went to bat for his Hannibal movie.
I know. I know. Yeah. You know what? I will say because of his recent output, especially Ridley Scott is good. He's got more good.
I did not care for All the Money in the World.
Okay, I like that one.
As much as I would like All the Money in the World, I did not care for it.
Okay.
The Martian did not hold up on rewatch.
Okay, I think it's a solid movie.
It's fine, but like there's stuff in it that I'm like, if I keep watching this, it's gonna bug me. Like, Exodus is trash.
Yeah, Counselor is great. Prometheus is great. Robin Hood is just fucking boring.
It's so boring.
I know.
It's so boring.
It's like, how did that happen?
I know.
Body of Lies, I don't even remember. American Gangster, I think, kind of underrated.
American Gangster's pretty solid. That's another one where it's like the director's cut is like so much better than the theatrical cut.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I've never seen A Good Year.
Yeah, no one has.
Haha.
No one has seen A Good Year.
See, it could be a joke about the movie or the fact that life sucks. Matchstick Men. You remember Matchstick Men?
You know what? I have never seen Matchstick Men.
Okay.
It's Nicolas Cage. I should watch it.
Yeah. It's another one I think is pretty good. Black Hawk Down, which is like really well directed in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, that's one where I just feel like I probably shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, I think the window's closed on that one. Hannibal, which is your favorite film. Gladiator, which I like. G.I. Jane.
G.I. Jane,
which I saw like on HBO when I was really young, and I don't remember it.
Never seen. White Squall, never seen. I think I saw half of the Columbus movie he did. And then, yeah, Thelma and Louise is like, all right.
Oh, I love Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's never. Some people really love that movie. It's never done that for me.
Okay. Black Rain.
Also, I gotta say,
as good.
Like, I'm not trying to like steal this guy his thunder, but Roger Ebert was like 100% correct for like he was so annoyed with the last shot of Thelma and Louise. And I am too, so that's when Roger Ebert somewhere like going off on the last shot.
It's so fucking funny what bothered him, like to such a detrimental degree, you know?
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, he'd just be like, "Why do you care about this, dude?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I've pitched we have to do North one of these days, which is a bad movie, but it's weird that like. Siskel and Ebert, they're like, this movie made us feel unclean watching it. And you're like, yeah, it's a bad movie, but really?
All right, and then Someone to Watch Over Me, which I haven't seen. Legend, vibes, so thumbs up. Blade Runner, Alien, and The Duelists all kind of slap. So,
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you're not.
Yeah, Alien and Blade Runner are just like obviously ahead of the pack, but the
You're not
Duelist
gonna
I think is really good.
It would suck to be that good that early, though.
Yeah, right.
Like here's the thing: people are making very strong arguments that like Spielberg's actually making the best films of his career right now. You know, like that. No, it's not. It's not Indiana Jones. It's not Jaws. Like right now, Spielberg is making the best movies of his career. I don't think people would make that argument with Ridley Scott.
No, even I, the Ridley Scott stan, would definitely not. Like Alien and Blade Runner are just like untouchable films.
Yeah. Like back to back, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like that's like fucking. It's like the first and second impact. Like we're all waiting for the third impact from Ridley Scott. Of just when is he gonna fuck it? And you know, no one can ever make that many influential movies.
Yeah.
Except for Steven Spielberg. But even then, Spielberg never really like. Those are two wildly different aesthetics, really, in Alien and Blade Runner. Like you can see the crossover, you know, but they're two wild. Like one is very like horror, space horror, and then the other is very cyberpunk, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like that's two genres that just got invented by one guy.
So thank you, Ridley Scott, for
you know, as much as I dunk on him, like I can't deny like what he's done.
Yeah.
For the industry. And it's good when he makes a movie like Kingdom of Heaven. Like, it's so weird. I wanted to be like, you know, I like his historic epics more than his science fiction these days. But then it's like fucking Robin Hood and fucking Exodus. And it's like, I don't even know what I want from Ridley Scott anymore. Like, but I like being in a world where Ridley Scott is around more than if he wasn't. Like, if I have to put up with Prometheus to get a Kingdom of Heaven, I'm totally fine with it.
All right. That's the attitude I like to hear.
Yeah, you know, it is worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah. And next up for him is Napoleon.
Oh, is he really doing Napoleon?
Yeah, he's doing Napoleon next. Jodie Comer was supposed to be in it, but I think she had prior filming arrangements, so she had to drop out.
Okay.
Which is a bummer. She's great.
That's a bummer. She is good. I hope she is in more things. Yeah, that's is he just doing a Napoleon movie, or is he doing the famous unmade Stanley Kubrick Napoleon?
I'm pretty sure it's just a Napoleon movie.
Okay. Because there was talk recently that they were finally going to do the Kubrick Napoleon as like a miniseries.
I had heard that too. Let me see. His Napoleon's going to be called Kit Bag.
Okay, so probably not.
Yeah, no. Perhaps it is a remake of the 5-hour Abel Gance version.
Hey now.
The only film in the history of the world to have a 4:0:0 aspect ratio.
Oh yeah, I remember. I've read about that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I own it. I got the BBC edition of it. I'm looking forward to spending 5 hours of my life watching it someday. I hear it's a masterpiece.
That feels like one I have to wait for like some theater somewhere to show it before I'll actually watch it.
Yeah,
like, if I watch it at home, I just won't get the effect out of it. You know?
Yeah, I guess when they had done this upscale version from the BBC back in like 2016 or whatever, they were showing it in theaters like across the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that would have been really cool to see.
I know there was a window with it, and I just like I think it was at what is it, like the New York Film Center, Film Forum, and like I just couldn't like make it. Like I think I was still fucking and like dying in a hospital then. So there was so much fucking shit that I was like about to do, and then like, nope, I'm in the hospital. And now who's laughing now, world? Now we're all in a hospital or something. Oh, you have to wear a fucking mask sometimes? Try having a fucking tube shoved up your nose so it stops bile from eating your digestive system. You fuckers. You know, that shit's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Motherfucking weak bastards.
All right,
don't you just want to run up and just smack people in the fucking face?
I mean, sometimes, but not like normal people who are like living their lives. Just billions of people living out their lives.
Yeah, but
Oblivious. No, not those people.
Oh, that was a pretty good Agent Smith, man.
Oh, thank you.
That was really good. I was like, holy shit, Diego found it.
All right, my favorite line in the movie is when Balian asks Saladin what Jerusalem is worth, and he turns around and says nothing, walks off, turns around again and says everything. That line always really stuck with me because it's like, you know, we're kind of poking fun at this movie being like, you know, let's all just get along, you know? But I think that line's a little more indicative of the criticisms this movie has, where it's like, dude, it's literally just whatever you make of it. Like the kingdom of God and like people's hearts and minds. Like it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It got me thinking about stuff like that at an age where those thoughts had never even crossed my brain. So it'll always have a special place in my heart for that. It's really nice to see that it just gets more interesting as I get older. Thumbs up.
I like the epilogue note that says, nearly 1,000 years later, peace in the kingdom of heaven still remains elusive.
I don't know if you're poking fun at it or not. I don't know.
I'm poking fun a little bit.
Okay, yeah. You probably don't need that, but
it's a little funny to think that this movie's over 3 hours, and then they still felt the need to underline, this is about the current situation in the Middle East.
You know what? You jest, but considering some people don't understand The Boys is critical of superhero narratives, I think it's fine that it's there.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be people that don't get it. I mean, there's people that draw pictures of Donald Trump dressed as Homelander, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, which is wild. Like, that's just bad. Like,
all right, Kingdom of Heaven, 5 stars or 5 billion stars?
Yes.
All right, Matt, thanks for joining me. Where can the people find you?
I'm at Emperor OTN1. Hey, well, they already know we're doing Book of Henry next time. Mm-hmm. I guess you're trying to alternate it with positive and negative. So what are we doing next?
Let me hear. Sorry, I just have to pull up the fucking notes. I did not have that ready. I was gonna just leave it for Book of Henry.
Mm-hmm. Well, because Book of Henry now unfortunately ends with us saying, stay tuned for Kingdom of Heaven.
Like, oh yeah, I'll just record a little something.
All right.
Here we go. Oh, Cloud Atlas.
Is that next?
Next, yeah.
All right.
Unless
another 3-hour movie dealing with complicated racial politics,
or we talk about Tough Guys Don't Dance.
Oh man, let's do Tough Guys Don't Dance.
Okay.
Like, I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. I've never seen it. No idea what it's about.
It's not good. But,
okay.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, so, I have no context for that movie besides you saying watch it. So
okay. So what are we doing next time, Diego?
We're watching Tough Guys Don't Dance.
Hell yeah, the Norman Mailer kind of noir film made by the Cannon Film Company.
Oh, it's a Cannon film. Okay.
Yes, in that era where Cannon was like trying to be prestigious, where like they were giving money to like John Cassavetes. Yeah, it's a Cannon film. It is on YouTube apparently, which is where Diego found it.
Yeah.
And you can literally just type in "Tough Guys Don't Dance" full movie and you can find it.
Mm-hmm. We should also reiterate that the only reason Matt is telling you that is because it is otherwise very difficult to track down.
It's not true, although you can stream it through Amazon Prime with like a free subscription to some bullshit.
One of those other streamers that they added because everyone needs a streaming company now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, streaming is now just like cable was. Isn't it great? Mm-hmm. What a brave new world we live in.
Delightful. Okay.
1,000 years later, the peace in the kingdom of heaven
no.
is elusive.
All right, and you can find me at the Diego Crespo. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon. We can get early access to the Book of Henry retrospective. Listen for all of our hot takes on that film. Which
it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with watching that movie. It made me feel better as a person. It didn't stick with me for days where I was constantly yelling at Diego over text messages. that he subjected me to that film again. I'm definitely not still angry about it.
We've been professionally unprofessional. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
Fuck you.
By what you do every day, you will be a good man. What God desires is here and here.
Give me a war. That is what I do. Defend Jerusalem. That is your oath. The king has no need of a perfect knight.
I offer you the world.
You are a princess, and I am no lord. You have my love and my answer.
I go to pray. For what? For the strength to endure what is to come.